Hello and welcome to Seattle City Makers. I'm your host, Jon Scholes. Welcome to our latest episode. I'm joined by Brian Robinson, who's a veteran, a lifelong resident of North Seattle, third-generation leader in the Seattle business community, and a founder of Seattle NBA Fans, a volunteer coalition that's been dedicated to supporting the NBA's return to Seattle. And Brian has led that entity or versions of it since the team left Seattle in 2008, and it has taken many forms and helped get an arena built, and now is positioning Seattle for a potential expansion team. And we talk in June here of 2025, a month or so ahead of when the NBA commissioner says expansion will officially be on the agenda for the Board of Governors when they meet in Las Vegas next month. So it's appropriate time for this conversation that so many in Seattle are excited to have after losing our team in 2008. Brian and I talk about how he got into this, his day job, which isn't working to bring an NBA team back to Seattle, although he spends a lot of time on that. He is in real estate and was inspired by his dad and working with his dad to get into that business. Involved in a number of other civic affairs over the years. Brian and I got to know each other as members of the Seattle Center Advisory Commission many years ago. He's been involved with the Columbia Tower Club, been involved with Powerful Schools and the Rental Housing Association of Washington, where he served on their executive board. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Brian Robinson, the co-founder of Seattle NBA Fans. Well, hey, thanks for coming by, Brian.
Hey,
First off, how you been? I haven't seen you for a little bit.
I'm doing great, thank you.
Yeah.
Life is good, and it's just a pleasure and honor to be here.
Chasing your kids around this summer?
Today is the first day of summer. 5 additional hours of parent duty a day for me and the wife, and we're going to make it a good one.
On the camp circuit?
Lots of camp circuit. Here in Whidbey Island, we're splitting time and got to make camps in both places.
Nice. Well, I don't know. Let's just get into all kinds of places we could begin, but I kind of want to start with, where'd your love for this team emerge from? Like, what's the origin story around your love for the Sonics?
My origin story of the Sonics, 2 things really. One is that I was in the Army in the 90s. And, when you were in the Army, I was Brian from Seattle, represented by Sean Kemp and Gary Payton, with guys in the barracks, who were Orlando the year that Shaquille O'Neal was drafted. And we had that big Houston rivalry, Houston Rockets rivalry. So it really it started in the dorms at Western Washington University and then grew in the barracks down in Monterey, California, watching those incredible playoff runs and just gambling huge amounts of money with other soldiers. And it was a fun way. It was just a source of kind of like pride.
And that's how you connected with your fellow servicemen and women over basketball, sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, it just, that was everything in June, July. We had people in the barracks that were from Houston and people in the barracks that were from Phoenix and people that were from Utah. And we just had a great time just repping our cities and talking trash. And the Peyton Kemp Sonics were a fun team to talk about.
They were so fun to watch and so fast and just electric. That was quite a time.
And they were really reflective of our city. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Last Dance where they're talking about Michael Jordan, and they have this one thing where Gary Payton and Sean Kemp are right in the background, and the announcer's saying, "Seattle has no business being here." This small little podunk
This
town.
is the Chicago-Seattle final series. And
I think that's kind of where we were at in that moment, as nobody thought we had any business in any of the conversations Seattle was in that early 90s, mid-90s run.
Yeah, that was a good time. I remember having not quite season tickets, but maybe like half the season or something in high school with my girlfriend at the time. We had like cheap seats way up high and in the key. Like they were like $7 a seat.
Yep.
And we drive up from Tacoma and
the dollar candy.
And then and then we sneak our way down to better seats as the game went on. But that was a fun time.
Yeah, I did that, and I was not the biggest fan. I wanted to be a writer, and Kevin Pelton, who's now with ESPN, offered me a chance to write on a blog, soniccentral.com. And I kind of got doing that. And then the team was sold and the blog became more important and we formed Save Our Sonics. And, it was not a ride that I expected. Certainly didn't think it would go on this long. But I kind of fell in love with the Sonics after the fact. And I kind of fell in love with the community more than the team. The fans I'm kind of in service to the fans and the parts of Seattle that have held on for this long, more than the actual team and the product itself.
So what moved you to go from writing a blog about the team and the team leaving to sort of forming this movement, which has now gone from, do I have it right? It's gone from Save Our Sonics to your social handles on it, Seattle NBA Fans.
Yeah, so we went Save Our Sonics, and then Sonics Gate emerged and all the Rob t-shirts and all that. And then we were Arena Solution around 2010, focused on building the arena and mission accomplished with Climate Pledge. Thrilled about that. And now we're Seattle NBA Fans. And it again, just kind of happened by accident. I was down with the team, covering the team when they were sold down at the Rocky Mountain Review in Salt Lake City. And I remember really clearly, I was watching a movie with all the players on the team in Salt Lake. And I got a text saying the team had been sold. And so I flew back and went to the press conference. And right around that time, someone approached me and said, hey, we want to create Save Our Sonics. It'll be just like Save Our Seahawks was. But you have all these relationships with the team, so you could do it. And we immediately formed a group, and we printed out signs that said Save Our Sonics, and we took them to a Storm game 2 days later and handed them out. And I met with team leadership, and they said, oh, this is great. We're going to have a big budget, and we're going to take care of things. You probably need to do this for 6 or 7 months, and then we'll step in and take it off your shoulders. and that's where it started.
But so this was after Clay Bennett. The press conference you referenced is the Clay Bennett
sale. Yeah, Clay Bennett, the July 18th Clay Bennett concert, or the July 18th Clay Bennett conference,
where he says we're keeping the team in Seattle.
Yeah,
no intention to relocate.
Yep. Yeah. Water under the bridge.
And so you've been at the helm of this movement and community building, which is sort of evolved for different moments, Arena Solutions and getting Climate Pledge done. And now how are you positioning it? What's sort of the status, the buzz, the vibe, your strategy as we feels like now officially or soon to be officially enter what the phase everybody's wanted to enter over the last several years, expansion.
This is why it's so hard, John. We're not supposed to get ahead of the commissioner.
Right.
We're not supposed to talk about it. We're not supposed to
We sit here in June and they're meeting in July, right?
Yeah.
In Vegas.
Yeah. And so I think it's been a challenge. I mean, it's obviously been a challenging process for 17 years, but even recently, like how do the people talk about it? And how do we get excited about it when we're going to be so wary and so guarded? And so I think the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, has been very honest for the last several years. He's kind of told us exactly where it is. And if you're reading the tea leaves and you're paying attention, they had to finish up the collective bargaining agreement. Mm-hmm. They had to finish up the television contract, which went to a little local company here in Seattle, Amazon. And they had to get all these things done. And now they have announced that they're going to be addressing expansion this summer. Adam Silver recently said this is the summer.
It's on the agenda.
Going
to be on the agenda.
Yeah. So what I've been trying to do is approach this with the philosophy that the fans and the people of the city can make a difference. I don't think after all this time and all this investment that people want to just passively say, here is this team that's being gifted to you. You should be thankful for it. I think we've all earned a little bit more of, kind of a sense of ownership. And I think people are really excited to be a part of this team's return. So I started about 1.5 years ago with a group of friends who was, has history in all this going back. And we were trying to figure out, is there any role we can play? Is there anything that we can do when we know there's going to be billionaires and there's going to be big official campaigns? And we kind of came up with this idea that what we can do is start talking about the best case scenario. What we can start doing is just have this really big, robust conversation, folks like yourself, who I appreciate, local business owners, cultural leaders, to say, if we think the Sonics are coming back, what can that be? How can it help kids? And how can it benefit our region? How can people get excited? And what's the best case scenario? And so we're really just trying to kind of speak into existence that best case scenario, and everybody has a little bit of a different version of what that means to them. So I've spent the last 1.5 years talking to people about what their best case scenario is, and it varies. There's people who want corporate sponsorships, and there's people who want youth engagement, and there's people who just want the team to exist back in the Central District and Pioneer Square and other areas where it probably won't go unless we're intentional about it. So that's what I've been doing, is just trying to approach it by asking people, what do you want to see out of it, and then advocating for those things.
Why do you think there's still so much energy and passion and enthusiasm around this team? I mean, this is a sports market that's pretty rich in assets. We've got, new teams that have come in the time that since the Sonics have left, the Kraken and Sounders and Reign. And what do you make of the energy that's still around bringing the Sonics home?
It is absolutely mind-boggling and absolutely unprecedented. I retire from this mission frequently, a couple times a year, and I say I'm done. And every time I say I'm done, there's some kid in a Sonics hat that walks by, or some person that tells a story. And I think that what has been done here with the fan base and the community is unprecedented. And I kind of trace it back to the origins of our city. If you look back in the 90s, when I grew up, Seattle was kind of a gateway to Alaska fishing town. And between 1980 and 1999, that it completely transformed. And the Sonics were there for that moment. And I just think that there's some emotional ties in the city where they're deeply wound up in the culture in a way that I don't always understand. And I'm just kind of, riding the wave.
That was a pretty unique, special moment of Seattle's growth, evolution. You had grunge, you had the startup and tech scene becoming more prevalent, and the Sonics were a part of that energy too, and people are still wanting to connect to that part of our past. Is that your theory?
So, I mean, if you look between 2010 and 2020, obviously Seattle grew a lot, right? It grew at like 2.3, 2.5%. And I once did this kind of study where I charted out the 90s. And during the 90s, Seattle grew at 4.1%, almost double the speed in the 90s. So it was this period of like just massive change. Demographically, we changed. The city was 93% white in 1990. And by the end of the decade, it was looked much more like it looks like today with people moving in from California. So, I once did this chart that showed, Microsoft hits 100,000 employees, Amazon hits this milestone, and you could almost track one timeline, and the Sonics tracked our city during that decade. I just think it was special times.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of people harken back to that time as they've witnessed so much change now. But as you noted, there was a ton of change in that period in our city, and growth and development and new people moving in, and it wasn't sort of a static period by any means.
It changed everything. But we're trying to be really intentional. We know that the return of the Sonics is not going to be like a 90s reunion where a bunch of us 50-year-olds drive everything. It's going to be new audiences and new people and young people. So I think that's the part of what I'm doing today that I'm kind of enjoying the most is I'm just trying to surround myself with young people and tell them old war stories, but let them do what they want to do. And that's I think a lot of fun and is going to make this a special moment.
And what does your effort look like today? Like, what's the focus and the strategy and tactics around kind of community building and organizing leading up to the NBA Board of Governors decision and consideration?
I think our focus is to be ready. I saw Samantha Holloway comment in a newspaper article recently that it's hard to prepare for a transaction that may or may not happen some undefined time in the future for some undefined price. And so our strategy is always just to have lots of fun and to see if we can accomplish other good while we're waiting for the league to come around. We've been doing a lot of that. And to be ready. So we've, at our website, SeattleNBAfans.com, we've got sign-up portals, and we've got a group of, a couple hundred local business owners who want to be a part of our organization, have listed themselves as named supporters, co-founders, and
some pretty great and notable Seattle brands that have come along
some fantastic
under the tent.
Yeah, we're incredibly thrilled that brands like Sub Pop Records and Cafe Vita and Simply Seattle, Pagliacci Pizzas have all signed up and said they want to be a part of our effort. And what we want to do is just kind of control the narrative. So we've been working really hard on the logistics of how do we sign people up, how do we communicate with this large coalition of people? Because if we want to make an impact on the franchise arrival, we have to have pretty loud voices. And so we have been just solely focused on how do we create the infrastructure so that when it happens, we're ready to scale and we're ready to just invite everybody to be a part of it so that everybody can look around and say, when that team came, I was at this meeting before they made the announcement, or I was listening to that podcast, or I was at this event. We've done a bunch of great events over the last few years. And the idea is that will build a sense of ownership by the people of the city. And then as soon as they make their announcement, then we're going to go on to events and activations. We've been talking to people about, we're going to have a ton of fun parties, and we're going to bring people together, and we're going to try to have Squatch-themed products. We're going to get a Squatch blend at Cafe Vita, and Molly Moon has got an ice cream ready to go. And so we're just going to try to just really make it fun and involve as many people so that everybody in the city can say, I was a part of the team coming back.
What do you think the best case scenario is for, not to get ahead of the commissioner and the league and all that, but best case scenario for if we were to be awarded, if the league expands, and if Seattle is fortunate to be awarded an expansion team, when a team would take the court?
Well, John,
27?
Let me give you the disclaimer that nobody knows the exact timeline process or outcome of an NBA expansion process because they are riding that process as we speak. But we do know what some of the components are, and the expectation is that in July they are going to form an expansion committee
of owners.
Of owners.
Yep.
And once that happens, the committee, maybe sometime between October and February, I think October, kind of the best case scenario, would formally open an expansion process. We know they would then solicit bids, likely from several cities. Maybe 4 cities would submit bids. We don't know. Maybe multiple owners in this region. But then they would award a team, and the team would arrive. I think October 27 is the earliest possible. It could be October 28. But we've seen this with the Kraken, once they make the announcement and once it becomes official, the ride has already begun. All of a sudden, you're going to have events where they're announcing the new logo. You're going to have events where they're construction on the training facility. You're going to be monitored. They're going to hire a GM and some employees. So, I wanted the team to arrive in 2026. I was really excited about that after I wanted it to arrive in 2012. But I think we're just waiting for this process to start. And however it plays out, in some ways, more time has actually made it, feel right in the end here. So
it's going to be like the waterfront that's taken way too long, but totally worth it, right?
Totally worth it. Yeah, I think our city is looking incredible. I'm just going to take a minute here, and I just want to give you so much credit for your effort. It takes a lot of cheerleading to make this downtown core, to let people understand how great it is. I rode the train in today. The waterfront is amazing. There's so much activity and activation. Seattle Center is just booming. So
it was feeling pretty good this week with the sun and these Club Cup matches. And I came around the corner last night and a couple hundred soccer fans out in front of the Westin with flags and jerseys, and it was pretty cool.
I'm watching FIFA really closely and seeing all the good work they're doing, because you think of all the work they're doing for the World Cup, and the Sonics are probably going to be bigger. The arrival of this team, the lead up is going to be just incredible. We really didn't get to see it with the Kraken because of COVID.
Right.
We thought we were that whole year.
That momentum was a little interrupted, right?
Well, they were just so challenged trying to build a building. It was, you were there. The things people don't know about how hard it was for them to build that building during that period with everything going on. It was just crazy. And with the Sonics, hopefully we're not dealing with another global pandemic.
No.
We'll have somewhere between 1 and 3 years of laying the groundwork for the entire state and region to rally around this one moment. And what we've kind of settled on is this idea that the return of the Sonics has the potential to be the most unifying moment in Seattle history. And that's pretty cool. We're at a moment in time where unity is hard to achieve, and unification has a value. So if you know that 2 years from now, 3 years from now, you're gonna have this unifying moment, what can the DSA do with it? What can I do with it? What can Mentor Washington do with it? What can all these programs? We'll make good use of the time.
Yeah, we need some moments like that.
We need lots of
those
moments.
are good moments.
Absolutely.
Scarce moments. We've heard Vegas as another city, and I know you all had some fun with Vegas on social media this past week or so, responding to what was an article that
they said they had the best foot to put forward.
Right.
Look, I'm hoping that we can get a friendly rivalry going with Vegas.
Yeah, and it was all in good fun.
Yeah, it might be a little too early, but but it's never too early to have fun. And here's the reality: Seattle is the best positioned team for an NBA's return. We want to be number one on the list. We want to put our claim out there and showcase our city. So we took a little shot at Vegas. We'll probably continue to do that. I'm hoping to go. We should go down there during the summer league. You want to go to summer league, John?
It's too damn hot in the summer down there.
True.
James is in. So they're obviously contending, and that town is sort of blown up when it comes to sports over these last several years with Raiders and A's coming and Golden Knights before that. But who else is in the mix, you think? Who else is gonna put a bid in? And then do you think that the sale of the Celtics at $6.1 billion, is that helpful to the prospect of expansion, or does that create more challenges for the cities and ownership groups that are looking to expand? I guess maybe it's a double-edged sword.
Look, I don't have to write the check, and none of us have to worry about those high-level economics. I know they needed to sell Vegas to figure out what the price was going to be.
Sell Boston.
To figure out what the price was going to be. And what we have heard out of ownership since that happened is that they are, prepared to move forward. So I think that the price they sold for and the numbers they're probably talking about, they're going to put a deal together. But the cost of this NBA franchise is going to be enormous. I say it's whether it's $4 billion or $5 billion or $6 billion, I don't know. All that's above my pay grade. But what I've been saying is it's going to be $1 less than no. And they're going to find no. They're going to get there, and they might have been there a month ago to where like no, at this price I'll do it, and at this price I won't. We're trusting ownership right now. In terms of other markets, I don't know that there's going to be any other serious contenders. All the reports are that these are the two favorites.
And what about international?
I think it's just not the right time to go international. It went 12 years in 2012 when we were looking at bringing the Kings here. All the belief was that expansion would ultimately include Mexico City. They would relocate the Kings or the Grizzlies here, and then they would ultimately expand to Mexico City and Vancouver. I just think that there's just too much turmoil internationally, and it doesn't seem like it makes sense. So Seattle and Vegas are the favorites, and probably some other teams. They get behind and they say, well, we can make a bid and have a chance to showcase our city. And it might not get us in this round, but these cities, you're playing a long game.
Yeah, it's a good exercise.
Yeah, so if Kansas City, for example, pitches themselves today and it goes well but is not successful, who knows? Maybe, we saw Oklahoma City. They got a team essentially because they hosted the Hornets after Hurricane Katrina. So I think cities are going to look to put their name on the list.
Yeah, what can they do to set themselves up for future expansion phases?
Yeah.
But there's no city with a arena of the quality of ours that's ready, that's had a team before and has got a proven basketball market, and then 11th, 12th largest media market. There's some unique characteristics there.
I think we've finally turned the corner where for years I think Seattle was kind of negatively impacted by our own success fighting relocation. There was this worry that because we had been so loud and so vocal and so angry and so emotional when
Clay took the team to
Oklahoma, that in some ways made it hard for us to get a team. But I feel like that's finally turned the corner where now they're looking at it and they notice how long we've stayed on and we're a favorite. Everyone you talk to says Seattle needs a team. in the league, people who are affiliated. So I don't see them expanding and not including us. I think there's a risk that they don't expand at all. But once they start the process and form this committee, there are a lot of people who think they'd be unlikely to start that process if they didn't have a plan to finish it. That's where I sit.
Do you see us getting another Rain City Classic? Is that already scheduled for a fall preseason up here
Last
in Seattle?
I heard, it was not scheduled. I would guess that it will be. They announced last year on July 15th.
Okay.
I just checked that to see when they announced it. Last I heard, it was not scheduled, but I would be really surprised. They've been so successful doing that.
I missed last year's, but I was there for the first one, and the energy in the building at Climate Pledge, it was just like, for a preseason game of two teams that aren't from this market, obviously, was quite something.
If people don't know what goes on behind the scenes, because a preseason game is the Clippers own that game. It's their preseason game.
There's Clippers and Trailblazers.
It's Clippers
right?
and Trailblazers, but technically they're this is like just a little away game with their kind of B game day people, and then the Kraken are preparing for their opening day, which is basically the same week.
Right.
And so for the people who care about the NBA, it's such a big deal game, and they're trying so hard to build enthusiasm. But there's a lot of conflicts with that game. I think I would be stunned if they don't have one this year. I hope they do. And,
so it's just about trying to slot it in and make it happen with all the
they've got
variables they've got to.
They've got to find an NBA team that's willing to host one of their preseason games here, and it's been the Clippers the last 2 years. Steve Ballmer just opened a $130 million arena in in San Diego, that for his G League. So I don't know if he's going to want to host there instead of here, but I would be stunned if there's no Rain City Classic. They did and the partnership with Pokemon last year was so brilliant.
What was that about? I missed that.
They had Pokemon as the main sponsor, and the little kids just loved it. It was such a direct appeal to youth, so they gave away free Pokemon cards and Pokemon basketballs.
They got a big presence here.
My kids sold my 9-year-old sold his Pokemon card for $150, the one he got at the game, which was as much as the ticket cost.
There you go.
I was thrilled about that. I'd gotten a couple other ones.
Well done. So you got a day job amongst all of this in real estate. Commercial real estate and multifamily in north part of Seattle. How'd you get into real estate?
Real estate kind of fell on me. My dad owned a big parcel of property down in Ballard. He owned a metal fabricating shop for years, the FenPro factory. And I was going to move overseas, and that fell through. I was in between jobs and with a new young baby, and so I started helping my dad out with his parcel. We sold that and helped build the Nordic Heritage Museum. And after that transaction, just started kind of, adding apartment buildings and doing that. And real estate's a fantastic industry with lots of challenges right now. But I try to stay involved. I try to stay involved in real estate stuff as well. It's been the side benefit of being involved with all these basketball things, is getting to know some of the city leaders, to be able to talk about the issues my tenants face and that I face, trying to provide housing at a very critical time.
Yeah. If you could change one thing around the production and development of housing in Seattle, what would it be?
If I were to change one thing, I would
wave a magic wand.
I would make it easier to evict tenants based on behavioral issues. There was a great article today talking about how affordable housing is struggling because it can't evict, and the affordable housing projects put on by nonprofits, are facing like 27% non-payment rates. And in the article, it said they're trying to evict people based on rental non-payment. And that's great, but people who are trying to pay their bills and who want to pay their bills, we usually find a way. It works out. The problem in housing right now is that I've said I can have someone write a racial epithet on their next door neighbor's door in dog crap. It was a true story. And I can't evict them for it. And I can have people set fires or invite friends over who steal, and I can't. And so if I were to have one magic wand, it would just say, let's do two tracks. Let's protect the tenants who are legitimately trying to pay, and let's evict the problem people. And if we could do that, I think you would find that there would be so much correlation that it would solve a lot of problems for everybody.
And start to stabilize some of these buildings that are really struggling, nonprofits included.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think they said six non-affordable housing complexes operated by nonprofits currently for sale.
Yeah.
In Seattle, and we're going to run out of affordable housing. So the Rental Housing Association is my second hobby. I spend a lot of time with them, and I always feel like we're at our best when we're trying to be on the side of our customers and advocate for the people who live in our buildings. And that's what I don't think. We have a tenants union, but it's not made up of the tenants in my buildings. It's made up of people who are kind of, rental housing policy advocates, protecting non-payers. And if you were really to go into my buildings, you'd say, man, I just want to be able to walk from the bus stop home at night with no drama, with feeling safe. I just want to be able to go into my building without having someone yelling in the unit next door or throwing a big party or selling drugs. And
pretty basic stuff.
Pretty basic
we
stuff.
Could all agree on,
yeah.
probably.
Those are the tenants. So I'm.
So what do you make of the state's new rent control policy?
I think I don't think anybody. So I don't think it did anybody much good because it limits rental increases to 10%, and not many folks are getting 10% right now.
Yeah.
But administratively, it requires that every single notice be sent by certified mail. So we are going to spend
from landlord to tenant,
and you have to send multiple. So there's all these little administrative things. So it is going to add $700 a month of certified mail expenses to us, and we have to go to the post office and wait in line, and it takes over an hour to generate all the certified mail slips for all of our tenants. So I don't usually worry very much about policy. I just think as long as we have consistent rules. I'm not raising anybody's rent more than 10% anyway, but the administrative details of that, they kind of suck. We're just figuring.
I missed that one in the whole thing. I'm sure a lot of other people did too.
That's our big thing, right? So we have to send effectively 4 copies of every notice. We have to, if there's 2 people in the unit, we have to send a certified letter to each of those individuals, and we have to send one to all other residents. And we have to send one to the group, and it has to be 4 separate certified mailing letters in 4 separate envelopes to one apartment. And we have to post them on the doors.
The unintended consequences.
Yeah. My guess is that part of it will go away.
Yeah.
But,
so what was your first job that you took a paycheck for? This is one of our standard questions.
My very first job was a Seattle Times paper route.
Oh, yeah.
And I always say that I made more on my Seattle Times paper route at age 12 than I made my first year in the Army at age 18 as a buck private. So,
were you on foot, on bike, a little bit of both?
I started off on foot, and then I bought a Honda Spree. And I was a 15-year-old kid cruising around on a Honda Spree and a neon green Honda Spree.
Hucking papers.
Throwing papers at the door like in a bad 90s movie,
What neighborhood were you covering?
Neighborhood in Shoreline. I was up in Shoreline, right by Shoreline Community College.
Yeah.
So loved that though. It was being in Seattle, working for the Seattle Times, the paper route was an incredible way to start the career. Right
on. Well, Brian, our last question is, what's your perfect Saturday in Seattle? And the Sonics are back. They're at home. Beyond that.
That's an obvious one. No, my perfect Saturday is to take my kids to the fountain at the Seattle Center.
Yeah.
If I had the energy for a perfect Saturday, it would be the fountain with my kids during the day, and then any one of Marcus Hilario's parties in the evening.
He's got a couple coming up. I know
they're
down
amazing.
Around the Club Cup matches. Yeah.
I love what he's doing there, and I know you support it. Marcus is one of my idols, and I would be at the Black Tones on the 19th in Pioneer Square.
Are they playing the 19th?
Yeah. Black Tones are playing the 19th with the Sounders, and Travis Thompson played 2 nights ago.
Smokey Brights and Sarah Cahoon next Monday, I think, afternoon.
I know you were a music lover also. So I was going to say another downtown venue, but I think if I had to pick one right now, I love these Pioneer Square shows that are going on for free. The Westlake show last summer was amazing. So I just think what is happening with those kind of events, and again, I know you're a big part of it, they are like modern versions of old Seattle culture, which is so fantastic. It just feels good to be there. I like to take my kids there, and be with the people in those free audience crowds.
Yeah, and there's so much of that this summer. I mean, the concerts now that are back on the waterfront and what the Croc's doing down there, and
Yes.
super cool setup with the stage. It's back to downtown, and so you look up at the band and then the skyline behind, and it's great.
How did all this originate? How is the Crocodile hosting these big events and Marcus Lolario is partnered with the Sounders? It kind of boggles my mind.
Yeah, the Croc and Hunter, their booker there, has been working with us on our concert series, our Summer Sounds concert series for some time. So it's sort of a natural fit for them to take over the promotion and booking at the pier.
It's what I've been saying for years to the sports team. Like just tie yourself to the culture and you'll be okay. Go out there with the people, and it's fun to see so many of the people who are kind of party promoters and culture people and cultural leaders are all of a sudden establishment. I talked to Marcus and I said, man, you're the establishment now. How did this change?
He's full on. He's been on Seattle City Makers. So he's rolling with the establishment. He's full on establishment.
You guys have an incredible lineup. It's humbling and an honor to follow that list. Marcus and Megan Jasper and so many others, man, what a great.
Yeah, Seattle's full of them, of people that are willing to take risks and chances and create great things that we get all take part in. And you're part of that list. Thanks for creating this incredible movement and sustaining it. God, it's hard to believe it's been 17 years since the team left, and feels like we're pretty close to, fingers crossed, a great announcement here.
I think we're feeling good about the future path, and it's just been a privilege. People ask me all the time why I stick on it, and it's just all about the people. It's just all about the people and the chance. So all of these voices that are on Seattle City Makers, I hope that the return of the Sonics can be an opportunity for them, and then I can be in service of helping them do a better job on all of their various really important things that they're trying to deal with.
Yeah, well, I think you're right that this their return is an opportunity for a huge unifying moment in the city where people can just all be excited and come together around it. And I remember when the Sounders entered the MLS and we were in the Great Depression, that was sort of a moment, and people going to the matches for the first time and the tickets embedded in the scarves, and it was just this like bright spot in our city, and that wasn't necessarily a team that we had lost. And this one has a different history and vibe around it. And I think, it's going to be a big deal.
Well, and Climate Pledge and the Kraken
coming
exactly. out. I mean,
and to see the energy and the ticket sales. And
I was on the board.
We just got to get a little bit more wins and points this coming season and get back to the playoffs, but that'll happen.
I'd like to see more success on the ice, but downtown reopening would not have been the same without them. So it's funny, we kind of have these critical moments, and the pro sports comes in and leads.
Yeah. And, the Sounders were a big part of that in the Great Recession, just giving energy back to downtown and in a tough time. And
I hadn't even thought about that. Was 2008?
9, right? Was the season?
2009. Yeah, big deal. With Kevin Calabro as their initial play-by-play.
Yeah.
Good suck-up move there.
And Kraken.
They thought that one through.
And hopefully we don't have to go through another recession or pandemic or something else for the Sonics to carry us out. Hopefully we can just kind of stay the course with the good vibes we got going on right now in Seattle and downtown, and just add to them with the return of this team. So
knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. So Seattle NBA fans is your handle across. You're mostly active on Instagram?
Mostly Instagram. We're doing everything on social media, on all platforms. We're at Seattle NBA Fans.
NBA Fans, yeah.
Yeah, at Seattle NBA Fans, www.seattlenbafans.com. And we just really encourage people to engage with us. And like any volunteer org, it's, come be a part of it, contribute how you want to contribute, large or small. But we'd love for people to host events and activations. We'd love to find ways to promote each other and collaborate on things.
Right on. Well, thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for coming on Seattle City Makers.
Awesome. Thank you, Jon.
Well, hope you enjoyed my conversation with Brian. The excitement in the air around our city for the potential return of the Sonics is palpable. And keep your eyes open for the unveiling of a pretty terrific new tribute and statue to former Sonic coach Lenny Wilkins on the campus of Seattle Center in front of Climate Pledge Arena this week. What a great moment for our city and the continued effort to build excitement and enthusiasm and engagement around the NBA's consideration of expansion. Well, I want to close out with a recommendation of something to check out in downtown Seattle, and I want to highlight the return of the Downtown Summer Sounds concert series presented by the Downtown Seattle Association. Free concerts July 11th through the 28th. We kick off on Pine Street on the afternoon of July 11th. It's a Friday. The street will be shut down, and Ravenna will be playing. We've got an incredible lineup of nearly 24 shows through the end of August. Kishibashi, the High Seagrass, the Softies, a terrific lineup. Rose City Band on July 31st. A couple of my favorites here with Kishibashi and the Rose City Band. Don't miss those shows. And then July 12th, just following the kickoff of our Summer Sounds concert series, invite you to return to Pine Street. It'll be closed for Nordstrom's block party. They're throwing a terrific block party to kick off the Nordstrom anniversary sale, and it's going to be a great time of music and different activities and food. Get yourself to the block party, get yourself into Nordstrom, support our terrific flagship store here in the downtown, and enjoy music. There's more music, I think, free in parks and plazas and on the streets of downtown Seattle this summer than in recent memory. So I hope you take part in our concert series, Downtown Summer Sounds, in addition to what Friends of Waterfront Park are putting on with their friends at the Crocodile on Pier 62. It's a great summer music. Check it out. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, on this episode of Seattle City Makers, presented by the Downtown Seattle Association with support from James Cito and production by Thread Theory.